Vincennes, Indiana. Vincennes is a city and in the county seat of Knox County, Indiana, United States. It is located on the lower Wabash River in the southwestern part of the state, nearly halfway between Evansville and Terre Haute. Founded in 1732 by French fur traders, notably, François-Marie Bissot, Sieur de Vincennes, for whom the fort was named, Vincennes is the oldest continually inhabited European settlement in Indiana and one of the oldest settlements west of the Appalachians. According to the 2010 census, its population was 18,423, a decrease of 1.5% from 18,701 in 2000. The vicinity of Vincennes was inhabited for thousands of years by different cultures of indigenous peoples. During the late woodland period, some of those peoples used local loess hills as burial sites. Some of the more prominent examples are the Sugar Loaf Mound and the Pyramid Mound. 668 In historic times, prominent local Indian groups who drove these people out were the Shawnee, Wabash, and the Miami tribe. The first European settlers were French, when Vincennes was founded as part of the French colony of New France. Later on, it would be transferred to the colony of Louisiana. Several years later, France lost the French and Indian War, and as a result ceded territory east of the Mississippi River, including Vincennes, to the victorious British. Once the area was under British rule, it was associated with the province of Quebec, until after the American Revolution. It then became part of the Illinois country of the colony and Dominion of Virginia. Next it became part of Knox County in the Northwest Territory, and it was later included in the Indiana Territory. Vincennes served as capital of the Indiana Territory from 1800 until 1813, when the government was moved to Corydon. The first trading post on the Wabash River was established by Sieur Juchereau, Lieutenant General of Montreal. With 34 Canadians, he founded the company post on October 28, 1702 to trade for buffalo hides with American Indians. The exact location of Juchereau's trading post is not known, but because the Buffalo Trace crosses the Wabash at Vincennes, many believe it was here. The post was a success. In the first 2 years, the traders collected over 13,000 buffalo hides. When Juchereau died, the post was abandoned. The French-Canadian settlers left what they considered hostile territory for Mobile, then the capital of Louisiana. The oldest European town in Indiana, Vincennes was officially established in 1732 as a second French fur trading post in this area. The Compagnie des Indes commissioned a Canadian officer, François-Marie Bissot, Sieur de Vincennes, to build a post along the Wabash River to discourage local nations from trading with the British. De Vincennes founded the new trading post near the meeting points of the Wabash and White Rivers, and the overland Buffalo Trace. De Vincennes, who had lived with his father among the Miami tribe, persuaded the Pionkeshaw to establish a village at his trading post. He also encouraged Canadian settlers to move there, and started his own family to increase the village population. Because the Wabash post was so remote, however, Vincennes had a hard time getting trade supplies from Louisiana for the native nations, who were also being courted by British traders. The boundary between the French colonies of Louisiana and Canada, although inexact in the first years of the settlement, was decreed in 1745 to run between Fort Yadenon and Vincennes. In 1736, during the French War with the Chickasaw Nation, de Vincennes was captured and burned at the stake near the present-day town of Fulton, Mississippi. His settlement on the Wabash was renamed Post Vincennes in his honor. Louisiana Governor Jean-Baptiste Lemoyne, Sieur de Bienvenue next appointed Louis Groston de Saint-Ange de Bellerive to command Post Vincennes. As the French colonials pushed north from Louisiana and south from Canada, however, the British colonists to the east continued to push west. In addition, British traders lured away many of Indians who had traded with the Canadians. This competition escalated in the Ohio Country until 1754 and the eruption of the French and Indian War. On February 10, 1763, when New France was ceded to the British Empire at the conclusion of the French and Indian War, Vincennes fell under the dominion of Great Britain. British Lieutenant John Ramsay came to Vincennes in 1766. He took a census of the settlement, built up the fort, and renamed it Fort Sackville. The population grew quickly in the years that followed, resulting in a unique culture of interdependent Native Americans, Canadians and British colonials and traders. Vincennes was far from centers of colonial power. In 1770 and 1772 General Thomas Gage, The commander-in-chief of Britain's North American forces received warnings that the residents of Vincennes were not remaining loyal, and were inciting native tribes along the river trade routes against the British. The British colonial secretary, the Earl of Hillsborough, ordered the residents to be removed from Vincennes. Gage delayed while the residents responded to the charges against them, claiming to be peaceful settlers, cultivating the land which His Most Christian Majesty granted us. The issue was resolved by Hillsborough's successor, Lord Dartmouth, who insisted to Gage that the residents were not lawless vagabonds, but English subjects whose rights were protected by the king. In 1778, residents at Post Vincennes received word of the French alliance with the American Second Continental Congress from Father Pierre Gibault and Dr. Jean Lafon. They revolted in support of the Americans, as did the local Pionkisha, led by Chief Young Tobacco. Lieutenant Colonel George R. Clark, Captain Leonard Helm, and others created a plan to capture the French forts that the British occupied after Louisiana was ceded. After Kaskaskia was captured by Clark, Lieutenant Governor Henry Hamilton sent British soldiers and reinforcements from Detroit to Fort Vincennes and helped to rebuild the fort. Italian trader Francis Vigo, who was captured once by the British at Vincennes, found Clark and warned him of the British at the fort. Vigo served with the Patriots, ordered war supplies from the Spanish to help, and acted as a secret agent for the Patriots. Clark rounded up enough men to outnumber the British and planned a brilliant surprise attack on Fort Vincennes in the heart of winter, a horrible time when no armies were expected to be able to attack due to illness, lack of food, and the floodwaters that were high during this time. The Patriots won the Battle of Vincennes on February 23 to 24, 1779. Hamilton thought Post Vincennes as a refuge for debtors and vagabonds from Canada. George Rogers Clark recaptured Fort Sackville in the Battle of Vincennes without losing a single soldier. Although the Americans would remain in control of Vincennes, it took years to establish peace. In 1786, Captain John Hardin led a mounted Kentucky militia across the Ohio River and destroyed a friendly Pionkisha town near Vincennes. This led to a series of attacks and counterattacks between Wabash Indians and American settlers. Finally, on July 15, 1786, the Wabash landed in 47 war canoes at Vincennes to drive the Americans back to Kentucky. The Indians warned the Canadians in advance of their attack and assured them that they would not be harmed, but the Canadians warned the Americans. They quickly supplied Fort Patrick Henry and waited out the siege. 1 American was killed and 4 wounded, and the war party left after destroying the Americans' farms. In response, Virginia Governor Patrick Henry authorized George Rogers Clark to raise the Kentucky militia and mount an expedition against the warring tribes. General Clark gathered a force of 1,000 militia and departed Clarksville September 9, 1786, along the Buffalo Trace. The militia spent 10 days in Vincennes before marching north along the Wabash, but men deserted by the hundreds. Clark was soon forced to return to Vincennes without any action taken. Clark left 150 men to help defend Vincennes, but this force soon turned into a lawless mob, and the citizens of Vincennes petitioned Congress for help. Secretary of War Henry Knox sent Colonel Josiah Harmer and the 1st American Regiment to restore order. The Kentucky militia fled Vincennes at the approach of U.S. regulars. Colonel Harmer left 100 regulars under Major Jean-François Hamtramck and directed them to build the fort, Fort Knox. Vincennes remained an isolated town, difficult to supply due to its position deep within Indian Territory. Secure transport to and from Vincennes meant traveling with a large, armed party, whether over land or via the Wabash River. On September 30, 1790, Major Hamtramck led 350 men from Vincennes as far north as the Vermilion River, to engage some of the Indian villages which had been at war with Vincennes. The Kickapoo tracked the party, however, and evacuated every village along the way before the Americans arrived. Hamtramck destroyed some abandoned villages, but he did not engage any war parties. Faced with desertions from Kentucky militia, Hamtramck returned to Vincennes. The expedition had done no serious harm to the enemies of Vincennes, but it distracted some of the Wabash villages while Josiah Harmer, now a general, led a much larger expedition up through Ohio country towards Cayuga. The earliest land claims by inhabitants of Vincennes were based on a sale by the Indians to the French in 1742 of a tract of land containing 1.6 million acres, known as the Vincennes Tract. It was a rectangular block lying at right angles to the course of the Wabash River at Vincennes. The tract was ceded to Great Britain by treaty in 1763 after the French and Indian War. On October 18, 1775, an agent for the Wabash Company, purchased 2 tracts of land along the Wabash River from the Piankashaw tribe called the Plankashaw Deed. In these deeds, the Vincennes tract was accepted, and it was the first recognition of the tract in period documents. Eventually, the United States Supreme Court invalidated the deeds. The claims based on French sovereignty or individual deeds issued under it were eventually rejected by Congress, because if there were such grants, they passed to the United States by the Treaty of Paris 1783. By right of conquest, George Rogers Clark secured this land for the United States in 1779, and the Land Act of 1796 honored its boundaries. The Vincennes donation lands were embodied in an act for granting lands to the inhabitants and settlers of Vincennes and the Illinois country, in the territory northwest of the Ohio, and for confirming them in their possessions. By 1798, the population had reached 2,500. Vincennes was no longer considered a trading outpost, but a thriving city. Elihu Stout published the first newspaper in the Indiana Territory in 1804 at Vincennes. The Indiana Gazette debuted on July 31, 1804. Fire destroyed the printing presses in 1806, but Stout revived the newspaper as the Western Sun in 1807. Vincennes served as the first capital of Indiana Territory until it was moved to Corydon on May 1, 1813. In 1826, a party of Shawnee Indians, in men, women, and children, to 500, passed through this place, from their reservation at Wapakoneta, moving to the Mississippi. The celebrated Indian prophet, and a son of the great Tecumseh, were in the company. This flag for the city of Vincennes, Indiana, albeit unofficial, is used around the city. It features the signature V, for fleur-de-lis, symbolizing the city's French heritage, its existence in 4 centuries, 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st, since the city's establishment in 1732. Similar in appearance to the flag of Indianapolis, Vincennes' flag is more squared in appearance and has a diamond center rather than a circle. It represents the layout of Vincennes. White stripes radiating from the diamond represent Vincennes' part in the settlement of the frontier, as it was at the crossroads of several great pioneer trails. Vincennes is located on the banks of the Wabash River at the western edge of Knox County. This is also the western edge of the state of Indiana, and Illinois is across the river to the west. The city lies about 100 miles southwest of Indianapolis. U.S. Route 41 passes through the city from north to south, and U.S. Route 50 passes just to the north of the city from east to west. According to the 2010 census, Vincennes has a total area of 7.478 square miles, of which 7.41 square miles is land and 0.068 square miles is water. Vincennes has a humid continental climate with hot summers and cold winters with heavy rainfall at times throughout much of the year. There are an average of 53.1 days with highs of 90 degrees Fahrenheit or higher and an average of 101.5 days with lows of 32 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. Average January temperatures are a high of 36.3 degrees Fahrenheit and a low of 18.3 degrees Fahrenheit. Average July temperatures are a high of 87.7 degrees Fahrenheit and a low of 64.8 degrees Fahrenheit. The record high temperature was 104 degrees Fahrenheit on June 26, 1988. The record low temperature was -26 degrees Fahrenheit on January 19, 1994. Average annual precipitation is 44.43 inches. Measurable precipitation occurs on an average of 105.6 days each year. The wettest year was 1990 with 60.08 inches and the driest year was 1988 with 36.02 inches. The most precipitation in one month was 11.18 inches in November 1985. The most precipitation in 24 hours was 5.07 inches. Average annual snowfall is 5.8 inches. Measurable snowfall occurs on only 2.6 days. The snowiest season was 1989-90 when 16.4 inches fell. The most snow in one month was 8.5 inches in December 1990. The most snow in 24 hours was 8.0 inches on March 24, 1990. Elementary schools. Middle school. High school. Elementary school. High school. As of the census of 2010, there were 18,423 people, 7,407 households, and 4,108 families residing in the city. The population density was 2,486.2 inhabitants per square mile. There were 8,259 housing units at an average density of 1,114.6 per square mile. The racial makeup of the city was 91.9% white, 4.7% African American, 0.3% Native American, 0.7% Asian, 0.7% from other races, and 1.7% from two or more races. Hispanic or Latino of any race were 1.9% of the population. There were 7,407 households, of which 26.6% had children under the age of 18 living with him, 36.8% were married couples living together, 14.1% had a female householder with no husband present, 4.5% had a male householder with no wife present, and 44.5% were non-families. 36.0% of all households were made up of individuals, and 14.1% had someone living alone who was 65 years of age or older. The average household size was 2.19 and the average family size was 2.83. The median age in the city was 33 years. 19.2% of residents were under the age of 18, 20.8% were between the ages of 18 and 24, 21.4% were from 25 to 44, 23.6% were from 45 to 64, and 15% were 65 years of age or older. The gender makeup of the city was 50.3% male and 49.7% female. As of the census of 2000, there were 18,701 people, 7,614 households, and 4,332 families residing in the city. The population density was 2,620.3 people per square mile. There were 8,574 housing units at an average density of 1,201.4 per square mile. The racial makeup of the city was 94.34% white, 3.28% African American, 0.25% Native American, 0.72% Asian, 0.06% Pacific Islander, 0.48% from other races, and 0.88% from two or more races. Hispanic or Latino of any race were 1.02% of the population. There were 7,614 households, out of which 26.3% had children under the age of 18 living with him, 40.8% were married couples living together, 12.4% had a female householder with no husband present, and 43.1% were non-families. 35.8% of all households were made up of individuals, and 14.9% had someone living alone who was 65 years of age or older. The average household size was 2.20 and the average family size was 2.85. In the city, the population was spread out, with 20.0% under the age of 18, 20.5% from 18 to 24, 24.0% from 25 to 44, 20.3% from 45 to 64, and 15.1% who were 65 years of age or older. The median age was 33 years. For every 100 females, there were 98.6 males. For every 100 females age 18 and over, there were 97.3 males. The median income for a household in the city was $26,289, and the median income for a family was $35,424. Males had a median income of $27,029 versus $20,254 for females. The per capita income for the city was $14,993. About 15.0% of families and 20.7% of the population were below the poverty line, including 25.9% of those under age 18 and 12.7% of those age 65 or over. The city government consists of a 7-member city council, 5 of whom are elected from districts, the other 2 are elected at large. The mayor is elected in a citywide vote. On November 4, 2007, Knox County joined Daviess, Martin, Pike, and Dubois counties in returning to the Eastern Time Zone. Controversy concerning time in Indiana has caused a change in the time zone of Vincennes on 3 different occasions since the Standard Time Act of 1918. The Revolutionary War battle at Vincennes was featured in the 1901 novel Alice of Old Vincennes by Maurice Thompson. 4 ships have also been named USS Vincennes in honor of this battle, as well as for the city. The first Vincennes was an 18-gun sloop of war commissioned in 1826 and sold in 1867. The second Vincennes was a New Orleans-class heavy cruiser commissioned in 1937 and lost in the Battle of Savo Island in 1942. The third Vincennes was a Cleveland-class light cruiser commissioned in 1944 and decommissioned in 1946. The fourth and most recent Vincennes was a Ticonderoga-class guided missile cruiser commissioned in 1985, which was decommissioned and scrapped in 2005. Which was decommissioned and scrapped in 2005. Which was decommissioned and scrapped in 2005.